So I just finished up my current selection of SD card portable game cartridges for PC here and created a whole new set of labels for them, so I figured I would record the process as we did with the SSDs for anyone curious about how I go about doing this process. Gotta say, the results turned out really nice, and a lot happier with it this time than my previous attempt. But here's how I do it. So to get started, once again, I'm just using Photoshop Elements 2023 edition and my Cricut Joy Xtra Cricut Design Space software to make labels for these SD cards. So we're going to start off by making a new template for our SD card labels. So we're just going to come up here and make a new blank file. And SD cards labels are 1 inch tall and 0.75 inches wide as one of their standards. So I'm just going to go with that. And it actually makes an image size that's roughly the size that we want for the Cricut design space, so that's perfect. So again, we're going to go for DPI of 3000 here. So we're just going to go ahead and create that. So that gives us the size of our label that we need right here, which is great. Now we just need to round the corners because we're not going to be able to trim this like we did with the SSD cartridges in my previous video. So we're going to grab a rounded rectangle shape here, and we're going to change the radius up to 50 or more to create this. So we're just going to drag this over the entire space. And then we're just going to resize it so that way it's fitting all perfectly within our current template. Perfect. So perfect. So it'll look something like that. And as you can see, the corners up here are rounded. If you would like to round them more, you can make the radius higher. So just to give an example of what that would look like here, let's just go ahead and that's the same one we already had. All right, so let's change this up to something like 90. Maybe I'll like 90 more. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, 90 is actually pretty good too. So I mean, personal preference, just put a little bit of rounding on them, at least 50 or higher. I'm actually going to go with 90. So again, just going to make sure that this is all fitting perfectly inside our current space. Perfect. All right, there we go. So I'm just going to delete that last one. So yeah, we're going to go with 90 for this. I like 90. I like the way that looks. So now we're going to add in a layer mask here for this shape. And we're just going to do our magic wand here and select the corners. We've got to simplify the shape. And that means we got to redo the layer mask. Awesome. Anyway, so we're going to select the shape here. And we're just going to fill it in. And you can kind of see up here in the corner that it kind of blacked out the corner a little bit. Hard to tell, but that's exactly what we want. So just going to do the same thing on this side. And the rest of the corners. And there we go. That is now all finished up. So what we're going to do is unlink this layer mask, and we're going to drag it to a new group here. We're going to create a new group, and we're going to drag that up there by itself. And then we can delete this shape. Or we can't yet because we need something else to be there first, I guess. That's fine. Anyway, so now we're going to find art to fill our SD card label with. So I'm going to start with Need for Speed Underground. And there is some nice reconstructed fan arts and things like that over on the Launchbox game database that you can use as a nice, easy reference to get some high-resolution art. If not, Google, any other web search. Just find images that you want, but something like this is just absolutely perfect. So I'm just going to copy this image and paste it into my file here. So now I can go ahead and delete that. And now I just need to resize it so it's fitting within my current template. There we go. So it looks like that. And then I'm just going to add it to the group layer here. There we go. And as you can see, it has rounded the corners for me with that layer mask. So that is all set. That is perfect, ready to be sent over to my Cricut software. All right, but now that we have this label template good to go, I'm just going to go ahead and save this real quick because the last one I made is not as good as this. So just going to save this over my current one. And then just going to save the image itself over my previous attempt at this. So I already had a file made for this, but we're just going to go ahead and overwrite that. And no compression. Perfect. So that label is good to go. Well, let's go ahead and make another one. So Need for Speed Underground 2, that's another one I have on an SD card that I tried previously labeling, and it just didn't turn out quite as nice as I'd like, so we're going to try it again. So we're just going to copy this image again. I got this one from Launchbox. They have some really nice fan-made stuff and high-quality renders of a lot of stuff, so it's really nice. But just going to paste that into that template, and as you can see, this one is huge, so we're able to actually bring this down. And we can resize it as we need right here. So you can see that there's actually a lot of extra space on the bottom of this one, which is really nice. So we can kind of center this up to kind of get the best of both worlds here. So I think I like having more of the smoke on the bottom. Not necessarily that reflection. So something like that. I like that. So there we go. That is looking awesome. So just going to go ahead and save this one as well. And again, I already had an SD card label file for this one, but this one's looking a lot better. Perfect. So that's the basic process. So I'm just going to go through and make up some labels for the rest of the games that I'm doing for this particular session. So be back in a bit. All right, now that I got all those labels made up, we're just going to make a new project inside of the Cricut software here. And just going to upload each of these SD card images one at a time here. So I have those stored on a backup server. There we go. So just going to go through and add these to the software. So, continue. Apply and continue. Flat graphic, continue. And upload. All right, and there it is. And as you can see, it made it 15 inches by 20 inches. That's not what we want. So height and width are locked. So the height needs to be 1 inch. So there it is, 1 inch by 0.75 inches. That's perfect. You can see how tiny that is going to be. It's amazing. So now just going to continue on and do that with each of the SD card labels here. So again, simple process. Just click on the upload button. Continue. It'll automatically remove backgrounds. There shouldn't be any, so it doesn't really matter. Apply and continue. Flat graphic. And upload. And then once it's uploaded, we just got to resize it. And for the SD cards, I go off of height because that's just the simple 1 inch. And that automatically gets it all prepped for us, which is really awesome. So I will rejoin you all once we have everything on the design template. All right, so got all of the labels for this round of SD cards loaded up into my Cricut software here. So we're just going to click on Make. I don't want to save this. And these should all fit on a single page. Yep, they don't even take up half a page. That's crazy. But since that all fits as needed here, we're just going to click on Continue. Going to find my machine here in a bit. All right, there it is. So now just need to click on Send to Printer. But before we do that, I want to talk about what I'm using here. So the first time I printed off labels for my SD card game cartridges, I was using my Koala glossy paper here. I really love the quality this gives, but it does have a bit of an issue that when you insert it into the SD card reader, the label is higher than the ridge around it, so the label gets scraped off, as you can see here on Need for Speed Most Wanted. It's just too big. So for this round of printing, I'm trying to use a thinner paper. So we've got this matte stuff from Small Smile, and it's a lot thinner. So still provides a pretty good print, and again, a lot thinner, so hopefully it will fit better on these SD cards than the koala paper, because you can just see that it's just a lot higher. And for my printer, I am using the HP Color Laser Jet 3201 once again. But got the paper loaded up into the printer, so we're just gonna go ahead and print these off, see how it looks. So next, we want to add bleed so we don't get any weird spots. And print. Now we'll just go and confirm that the print quality is what we want it to look like. Alright, so yeah, the print quality on these actually turned out pretty good. Some of the more orangish and darker ones, not as nice as I would like, but they work for my purposes here today, so might lighten those up on a separate print run. But on Need for Speed Most Wanted here, you can see just how much better that looks compared to the last one. So yeah, really exciting. We'll just go ahead and put these onto one of our cutting boards and get it loaded up into the Cricut Joy Xtra. Alright, so now that we've confirmed that the print quality is good and we got this put onto the cutting board, let's go ahead and click done here so we can begin cutting it. So for our paper type, we're going to choose printable sticker paper white. And for pressure, we're going to do less since this is thinner paper. I don't want to cut all the way through it. And now just need to load up the tray. Alright, so loading this up here, we're just going to slide it into the guardrails, make sure it's all the way aligned on the left here. And then just let it do its thing. Alright, now that that's ready, just going to tell it to go on the computer side and we'll begin cutting. And done. So now just need to click unload on the computer so we can pull the tray out. And there we go, let's go apply these. Alright, now it's time to apply these. So I'm just going to take off my old label here, because that is falling apart anyway from the SD card reader and the thickness of the paper like I mentioned earlier. So we'll just go ahead and pull that off. Try to get some of that freaking toner off my hand. But yes, this one was Need for Speed Most Wanted. Alright, and I'm just going to go clean this up real quick. Alright, so now we just got to get the label off here. And we want to be careful not to bend them because it will make the toner mess up. Like I said, this is a lot thinner paper, so this is a lot harder than on my other video. There we go. Got it. So now we just got to position this onto the SD card in a way that it doesn't look like absolute dog crap. So something like that ought to do. Not perfect, but not terrible. And it is still, unfortunately, a bit taller than the SD card itself. So this will probably give me problems with the SD card reader again, but we'll go ahead and check that real quick to verify. Actually, we're going to have to hold off on that for a bit because I am installing BioShock Infinite on it, but that's fine. So we'll just go ahead and apply the labels to the rest of the SD cards. And I gotta say, that end result is looking absolutely phenomenal. Like, these are looking way better than I could have hoped for just quick little homemade project like this. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of white edges around the edges of these labels because, again, it is paper being cut with a blade, so that's just kind of an inevitability. So you can go over these with a Sharpie like I did on my SSD video. The only issue with that, so as you can see with Control, I did it, and definitely looks a lot better on the label, but you can see that I had too thick of a tip of a Sharpie, so it just bleeds over. So I'm gonna try doing that again after getting a fine tip one at the store next time I go, because it'll definitely help the appearance of like Need for Speed Underground, Prince of Persia. But otherwise, yeah, I'm really liking the way these turned out. They are very crisp. Like, really happy with this result again, and since they're matte, like, looks nice. But just a quick little test here to see how these labels fit compared to the older ones. Slide it in here. And that feels a lot better. It doesn't feel like it catches on the label like it did before. So it does still catch the label. I went ahead and inserted this in and out quite a few times, but this paper type does not scrape off the ink like the glossy kind, so it works out. Just get a little bit of a scrape groove going on here, but you know, I can live with that. Like, it's still got the color, it's still got the picture, so again, very happy with this result. But thank you for making it to the end of today's video on how to make SD card labels for your physical PC game cartridges. I love this part of the project in particular. All these games are completely portable. I was able to get registry entries for the ones that needed it, put on the SD card so I can easily move them between different systems. Like, it's really awesome. But here at the end, just the usual favors to ask as always. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that like, dislike button depending on how much you like today's video, as well as that sub button and notification bell so you can see when new videos go live on the channel, as there is always more coming your way. And always love to have you along for the ride. And for anyone interested in further helping to support the channel and keep it going, you can check out that join button here on YouTube or that Patreon link in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, as every little bit helps keep us going and bringing projects just like this to life. Big shout out to all of our current backers. Couldn't do it without you. You are incredible as always. But until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, you all stay awesome, keep on gaming, and we will see you all back next video.